Okay, last time we were learning the mission on Pirkei Avos in the first parak, mission of Av, which is talking about Kanel Chachaver, acquire for yourself a friend. We went in through a whole digression of Rashi's first explanation, who said that a friend is farm, and exactly what Rashi means. Over here, we're going to discuss a tangent based on what Rashi says. Rashi, in his second explanation, says Kanel Chachaver, acquire for yourself a friend, is referring to an actual friend. And then Rashi proceeds to quote the pasuk in Koheles that says that two people are better than one. It's in Koheles and Daled Tes. And it's not good to learn by oneself. That's what Rashi over there says. In other words, two people are better than one because if a person falls, his friend could help him get back up. That's the idea over here. That's what it says in Koheles. Rashi. Okay. The pasuk in Koheles says that so two people are better than one. If a person falls, his friend could pick him up. Rashi explains that someone who has difficulty learning can receive help from his friend. Also, his friend could correct his mistakes. That's why it's important to have a friend, to have a chavrusa, someone to learn with. The Mishnah and Gemara, however, seem to say otherwise. In the third parak of Pirkei Avos, and it's an explicit Gemara in Brachos on Davav, they say that the Shechina, the divine presence of Hashem, is with a person, even if he learns Torah by himself. Maharsha explains that two people who are learning Torah together, they're going to get clarity and they're going to reach a truthful conclusion from the discussion. But someone who learns by himself might err. Right? Now, the Gemara says, this is another Gemara actually, in Brachos on Samach Gimel Beis as well as Tainus on Zayin Amud Aleph, that Torah is compared to fire. Just like fire cannot remain lit by itself, it needs other wood. So too Torah can't get fulfilled by one person. This is why they say the whole idea, we're just coming out of Lag BaOmer now with bonfires. Why? One deeper idea is because you need unity with all the pieces of wood, so too you need unity with all Jews. So the Gemara then quotes the pasuk that says, "Cherev ba el habadim v'no algu." A sword is going to come to the sorcerers and they're foolish. And the Gemara says this is referring to people who are learning bad, who are learning alone. And the Gemara then says that they're choitim, they're sinners, they're tipshin, they're foolish. So it seems like we have contradictory sources. On the one hand, the Mishnah talks about the importance of learning by yourself. And the Gemara in Brachos Davav says that the Shechina, the divine presence of Hashem, is with you. But on the other hand, we have this popular Gemara over here that's commonly quoted in Tainus on Dav Zayin and Brachos Samach Gimel that says that you should definitely not learn by yourself. So we are going to provide no less than 7 answers to this question. Answer number 1 is the Yabetz. This is quoted in the Yalkut Mefarshim in the back of the Gemara over there in Tainus. That the Gemara, this is referring to someone who has a rabbi or a proper friend. Then you should learn with that rabbi or your proper friend. However, if that's not the case, then a person should certainly learn by himself. And the divine presence will be with you. Rather, says the Yabetz, it depends on the exact case, the type of person, and the people who are around him. If they aren't proper, then it's prohibited to learn with them. So that's one answer to the question. Who's your friend? Is he a good friend or is he not a good friend? Is he someone you could gain from or not? Answer 2, the Ein Yaakov over there in Brachos on Davav explains that if it's possible to learn in a group setting, you should do so. But if it's impossible, then don't worry about it. You still learn by yourself. In other words, it's better to learn by yourself than not learn at all. Then Yaakov then provides a second answer, which is very logical. The Torah Shebechsav, which is the written Torah, that you're able to learn by yourself. That doesn't require a lot of pilpul, little back and forth. However, the Torah Shebaal Peh, that's the Gemara, etc., the oral Torah, that you should learn with the Chavrusa. Now, this is probably my favorite answer number 4 out of all of them. Back then, when they used to learn Gemara, so what would happen? It was all Torah Shebaal Peh. It was actually by heart. They didn't have Svarim. So therefore, if someone's learning by himself and it's all by heart, he could easily not remember something and make a mistake when he's reviewing it, and he's going to review the incorrect explanation to what the Gemara says. So therefore, his chazar isn't even a good chazar, because he's reviewing the wrong information. Right? So therefore, that's going to be a massive problem over there. Right? However, nowadays that we have Svarim, We already see Rashi in his first explanation of Kana L'Chachav, acquire a friend, says it's Sfarim. Nowadays, when a person is learning from Sfarim, it's as if he's learning with the Chavrusa. And this is actually the answer that the Chazon Ish gives. The Chazon Ish was once asked why he learned by himself so much. Many great people learn by themselves. The Chazon Ish says it's considered as if I'm learning with others, right? Nowadays we have Sfarim that make it easier for us to learn all types of Sfarim. These Sfarim are considered our friends and our rabbis. We grow our Torah knowledge from these Sfarim. But certainly, if it's possible to learn from a Chavrusa, fine. Right? Two Talmidei Chachamim sharpen each other. But this idea of nowadays that when a person learns from a sefer, it's as if they're learning with other people. This is brought, I'll just quote all the sources over here. The Minhag Yisrael Torah in Siman Kuf Nun Hey in Or Chaim and Oz Dalid, as well as it's in Your Day and Reish Mem Vav. And he quotes the Sefer Hoylach Tamim, as well as Rav Moshe Sternbach in the Shilas and Chuvas Van Hagos Chelik Alf, Your Day is Siman Tuf Kuf Mem Beis. Answer number 5, Artzos Chaim. He says that the Gemara that says that someone who learns by himself is foolish and a sinner, that's referring to people who are learning in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Israel. However, people who are living in Israel, they're allowed to learn by themselves. In Israel, there's no concern of learning by oneself. Why? Because Eviro, Eretz Yisrael, Machkim, like it says in the Gemara at the end of Bava Basra. Just the air of Israel makes a person wiser, aka it assists in you gaining wisdom. This I actually saw in the Masifta and Brachos in the Chelik Dal in the Yalkut Urim section on page 370, footnote 155. This answer over here, and that's what it says over there. All right. Also, the Yabeitz offers this answer in his intro to the Siddur, and the question on this answer is Achitofel rebuked David HaMelech for learning by himself. That's in the 6th parak of Avos, and they were in Israel. So that is what to look into on that specific question. Answer number 7, one of my favorite answers, 6, excuse me, is the Chus Avos explains to the Gemara that says that someone who learns by himself is foolish and a sinner. That refers to beginners, right? Beginners who are just starting learning, if they're learning by themselves, they're probably going to make a mistake and learn the wrong explanation. However, a Talmid Chacham, someone who's more advanced in his learning, he's certainly allowed to learn by himself. Very logical answer. That's also in the Masifta and Brachos over there. There's a Chus Avos, answer 7, and lastly, explains that the Gemara that says that someone who learns by himself is a fool and a sinner refers to someone who consistently and only learns by himself no matter what. However, sometimes he learns by himself, and other times with other people, he could do that. So in other words, he's splitting it up. Those are 7 answers how to reconcile this very important question that's also in the Sifta. Talk about some of the pros of learning with a chavrusa. Number 1, it gets you to the base medrash, gets you out to the yeshiva. Number 2, you won't space out. Number 3, there's going to be more of a give and take and a discussion. Number 4, chavrusa makes you speak out the learning, makes you verbalize what you're learning. The Stipler says that one should specifically learn with a good friend. This is the Karna de Igra Chelik Aleph and Igra Chavav. He says a good friend is someone who's not a batlan. He's not just going around the base medrash schmoozing the entire time, says the Stipler, or in the middle of his learning. He actually wants to grow and he wants to learn. And he says it's very important to learn with a good chavrusa. One's chavrusa should be approximately at the same level of learning that you're at. To be the same level of learning. That's an Igra Lamed. Most times, it's better to learn with a chavrusa. However, sometimes it's easier to learn more in depth and better if someone learns by himself. That's an Igra Lamed Ches. The Pele Yoyetz, Rabbi Eliezer Papo, writes in Erech Beis HaMedrash that it says that in Pirkei Avos, in the 6th parak, that the Torah is acquired by pilpul chaverim, discussions with friends. In order to clarify the halacha clearly, you need a chabura, a group of people. You get clarity. In order that the learning is done properly, they have to be pleasant towards one another. They can't damage one another, so to say, and demand that their opinion is accepted. Each chavrusa, express your opinion. If your chavrusa is not giving in, don't drag it out. If accepted, good. If not, just move on. Shouldn't waste more time. One should fear heaven and admit the truth and accept the truth from the person who said it and not be embarrassed. If you're wrong, just admit you're wrong. Arizal says the chavrusas have to love each other and be like one body. Then Itziv has a tremendous amount of insight that he says about this. He preferred that people learn together. Even if someone who learns by himself was a great Talmid Chacham, still, better learn with people. Even though he didn't force people to learn together, he used to say that anyone who learns by themselves or comes to a halachic conclusion, paskins halacha by himself, or writes alone without discussing his work with others, he will almost certainly exceed the bounds of acceptable errors. In other words, he will probably make more mistakes than he would have made have had he learnt with someone else. Someone who makes mistakes and isn't corrected, he imprints his mistake into his mind, like we saw before. One mistake could lead to another. Avera goreres avera. A small mistake could snowball into a large one, like a snowball going down a hill. However, someone who discusses his learning with others is guaranteed to reach conclusions that are clear and complete without any blemishes. He said that he was sure, and listen to this. This is a massive chiddush over here. If the Rambam would have written his work with other scholars, it would not have been met with anywhere near the criticism that we find. All the questions that are asked on the Rambam. Many questions are so strong and present such great difficulties that they can't be answered without forcing a not good shot into it, a not good explanation, a forced pilpul or far-fetched logic, or guessing making it an alternative text, right? Which all are methods of thinking that the Rambam himself rejected and didn't go like. Furthermore, the Rambam actually admits in many of his letters that he was mistaken in certain rulings that he made, and he says, what my critics said, they were right. Even at times, he said that certain rulings and halachic decisions that he made should be changed. The Rambam admits in his introduction to his Sefer and many letters that he worked for 10 years in a closed room on this work, solitary isolation, and he didn't discuss his writings with anyone else. He designated and built the entire work on his own. If during the course of his work he would have consulted with other scholars, Talmidei Chachamim, there is no doubt they would have pointed out many of the questions that have been raised in the hundreds of years as following the work's publication. He obviously would have made many corrections before allowing the Sefer to see the light of day. This would have eliminated many errors from the beginning. They would have also reminded him of many halachas in the Gemara that were left out from his work, and he would have included them in their proper place. Similarly, an analysis in the writings of the Rashba, on the other hand, the other way, this is the Rashba, yeah. It shows us an entirely different situation. It's very rare in the Rashba to find contradictions or any difficulty in his words. This could be based on the fact that the Rashba included many of the recognized scholars in his day in formulating his comments, aka he was with other people. Everything was discussed and analyzed by friends. They all made their comments, and he was able to consider them before coming to a final conclusion. Their words, in other words, were springboard for his commentary. He accepted their criticism and re-evaluated his position. This is both on the Gemara, Chedushay Rashba, and in the Shalos Tshuvas Rashba. He accepted their criticism and re-evaluated his position. Finished product produced after this sifting process was clear and understandable. Marsha writes, from here until the end of this parak, he's referring to the 6th parak of Maseches Sanhedrin. The Marsha writes, look it up. I do not wish to commit, my chedushim, my insights to writing, because I did not learn this parak in the yeshiva. Rather, I learned this parak when I was at the Berlin Fair. This was all in my Uncle Ben Tziv on pages 74 to 76. Let's talk about the pros of learning in a chabura, a group or a shir. There's already a Ber Halacha in Simin Kuf Nun Hey, Dibra Maskul V'Yikva, that discusses this at length. And he says, even though that someone who learns by himself certainly fulfills the positive mitzvah of learning Torah, nevertheless, even so, lechatchila, preferably, it's a mitzvah to learn in a chabura, a group of people. Learning in a group demonstrates its mara kavod Hashem, demonstrates more honor to Hashem when you're in a group. Furthermore, the pasuk says, "Berovam hadras melech," more people give splendor to the king. Chazal say that the Torah will only get acquired in a group. Eina Torah niknes ela b'chabura. The custom nowadays is to establish group learning after davening in shul. See there for more of an elaboration. Similarly, Chafetz Chaim in his Sefer Torah Sabayis on page 110 elaborates on this and explains that everyone is obligated to learn. If it's possible, one should learn in a group in the base medrash. Someone who does this is praiseworthy because Hashem's name gets sanctified more this way. There's an obligation for people to learn together in groups in order to increase Hashem's honor. Everyone should publicly make groups about the topics that they learn. For example, people learn Tanakh, should learn that in a group, etc., etc. Make groups of what you're into. Chafetz Chaim has a lot more length in his Sefer Shem Olam, one of his lesser known svarim. In Shem Olam over there in Paragraph Aleph, he says many positive reasons to learn in a group setting. The following is a brief list of advantages that the Chafetz Chaim points out. Number one, someone who learns in a group will consistently set aside time to learn. If he wasn't there, his friends will remind him, "Why did you show up?" He's going to be embarrassed. He'll want to show up more. Reason two, someone who learns by himself would not feel as compelled, so to say, to make up some of the learning time that he lost. Conversely, however, someone who is part of a chabura shir, he's going to feel like I have to make up what I missed. Everyone will have moved on, and he's lagging behind. This will motivate him to catch up. Kina soifrim tar b'chacham, the Gemara says, when you get jealous from a tam b'chacham, from the scholar, it will cause wisdom. Right? Like in kol, you're part of a kol, they're moving whether you're there or not. Many times, answer number three, the students in the group, so to say, they add important points that the person giving the shir never thought of. The student becomes a teacher to some degree, and the Gemara in Taina says that Rabbi Chanina learned the most from his students. Reason four, learning in a group benefits everyone because clarity is gained. Reason five, if you were offered either $100 or $200, you would certainly choose 200. The same applies with Torah and mitzvahs. The more people involved, the more reward will be for the performance of the mitzvah. All of this applies to someone who is able to learn by himself. This certainly applies to someone who is not able to learn by himself. Right? Most people can't afford hiring a private rabbi to teach them Torah, but they're able to afford hiring a rabbi to give a shir, but it's people pooling their money together. They should all chip in to pay for a rabbi to teach them Torah. They will then know what they're able to do. This is why for these types of people, the main learning they should spend time on is halacha. They also need to learn Sfarim on Musar and Midos, characteristic traits, in order to get them to fear Hashem. What about pros for learning by oneself? Sefer Chasidim, in Siman 940, quoted by the Mesivta in Perek Gimel, Mishnah Vav, in the Ali B'dol Chasa section in the Panini Halacha on page 4 says that someone who has more success when he learns by himself, he should learn by himself. As the pasuk says, it's pasuk in Mishlei in Hey Yud Zayin, you should be by yourself. Similarly, Rabbeinu B'chayin, the Kara Kemach in Erech Torah, writes that someone who desires Torah knowledge, what should he do? He should just be isolated, learn by himself. This is one of the conditions needed to merit understanding the Torah properly. Sometimes people need to be isolated in order to learn Torah properly. Being secluded with one's own mind is special. Someone who does this will merit acquiring all wisdom. Rav Elyashiv, when he was enrolled in Torah's Chaim, the yeshiva, he spent every single minute outside of the yeshiva's regular sessions learning along with the Gemara as his chavrusa. This is in the biography of Rav Elyashiv on page 56. So one time, a Talmud, a yeshiva student, he came to Rav Chaim Kanievsky complaining he was having a hard time finding a chavrusa, the study partner he wanted. Rav Chaim responded, your stender and your Gemara can be your chavrusas. In the beginning, it will be difficult, but it's worth it because after you get used to learning with these chavrusas, you'll never lack a chavrusa. That's how a person grows. Your stender and chavrusa, they always show up. It's in the footnote over there. Victor Miller Zatzal gained a tremendous amount from the shiurim he heard, but he grew even more from his independent learning, the learning that he did by himself. He was already on the way to developing his unique path of learning. One of the greatest moments of joy in his life was the day he was given permission to remain in the Beis Medrash to learn on his own without having to attend the shiur. Throughout his life, Rabbi Miller thrived most when he was on his own. He developed his own ideas and internalized them. During these years, on Friday afternoons, he would go upstairs to a side room and learn Tanakh. On Shabbos, he learned in an empty shul. He was happy that he had a place to learn undisturbed. This is in Rav Victor Miller on pages 67 to 68. According to my humble opinion, merely for society, It's better to learn in a group, as stated by the Be'er Halacha. However, there are individuals who are able to learn by themselves better than if they would learn in a group. Therefore, everything depends on the exact case, as stated by the Yabbetz. Mice, at the end of the day, do whatever is best for your learning. Questions, comments?
Hey, so at the beginning of the show, I was thinking there were gedolim that learned by themselves, and then you said it's only talking about people in Eretz Yisrael, but there were still gedolim in Chutz La'aretz like Ramosha,
They need to come on to the other 6 answers.
and also you're saying that they'll become sinners. I was quoting, you're like quoting the Gemara, "Mi oyev b'aman like tefillah."
Correct.
So when also you're saying that if you can't find the chavrusa you're looking for, and then you said the chavrusa you're standard in Gemara, but that's what the people who learn themselves learn with.
Yeah, that's if you. He was saying, because that was Rav Chaim's answer to the guy who didn't have a good chavrusa. So he's saying, learn with your, just get a safer and get a table. Get your standard. That's it. If you have nothing else, don't complain. You get used to it. You can't always have someone
But
at all hours of the day at every.
when you just said that while learning with the chavrusa takes you to the besmedrish.
Yes.
So what about learning with the chavrusa on Zoom?
So
You're
learning.
You're not in besmedrish.
Right. So first of all, it depends where you are. I have a chavrusa on Zoom once a week, 2 o'clock on Sundays. I can't. I got to get out of the house because all my kids are there. So I go to the base manager Zoom, but it depends exactly on what the story is over there. So you have to know. Next question.
So,
I've seen people all the time now. They go on a base measures, they're on a phone, they put it in their ear, they have a chavrusa. That's good. It's fair game.
Is learning on YouTube or on any old platform old off like a regular chavrusa?
That's not a chavrusa. That would be more like a shir because you're listening to a shir.
Yeah, but is that like learning yourself?
That's definitely not a chavrusa. That's not learning yourself. That's more like listening to a shir.
People.
It's listening to a shir. Questions only related to this first, then we could take other questions. We just finished a 20-minute shir.
When you just said like about the screaming, but I've seen people literally screaming over the Torah, over saying no, so like this, and if you have the remote like on the Torah.
You could scream all you want if you don't know pshat, so your screaming's worthless. So what does that have to do with anything?
Oh, using
There's no explanation.
Okay.
Next question.
Question. I'll bring in a guest over here to ask and the rest of the questions.
Next questions.
Oh yeah, Rabbi.
Yeah.
So when Rashi was saying about that the sefer should be your best friend, does that mean only a sefer that you learn or any sefer?
Sefer that you learn, obviously. What's the point?
Exactly.
I mean, there is a point, like we discussed last time, of having svarim, even if you're not going to learn them, because they're an ornament, like we said. There's something that's beautiful. But the main idea when you have a friend, if you have a friend and you never hang out with him, you never schmooze with him, he ain't a friend. You have nothing to do with him. The sefer is only going to be your friend if you actually spend time with him.
But let's say you just want this farm to be like a nice furniture in your house.
That's better than nothing, but the main idea is to learn them. Look at these beautiful notes.
So disciple gonna want to sell his kitty Yaakov.
Yeah.
The whole set because it was.
That's right.
That
You wanted to make sure people learn them, right? Optimally, you want to learn them. That's right.
Yeah, and I know.
That's the way to get a friend.
The whole set of kilos Yaakov. He went up there to the stipler, and he asked me what I'm learning all them stuff. He's like, he didn't want to sell anything, so we took a paper. He wrote a note on every single masechta, and the stipler was like, wow. And he learned, and not only did he sell both set of kilos Yaakov, he wanted to learn every day.
Good.
The Yaslov nowadays. So I went there once.
Okay, good.
So
yeah.
I don't remember who it was, but in Masechtas Makkos, I think maybe Rashi or someone said the same thing about that. If you learn yourself, you're a fool.
Yeah, that was the Gemara that we quoted. It's the same Gemara, yeah.
Right?
That's what I wrote down.
Yeah, same Gemara. Yeah.
Rabbi, but you learn after Mara sometimes yourself.
Yeah.
But so is the Gemara saying that Rabbi's a fool? That's a shame.
No, first of all, we had 7 answers. Number 1. Number 2, most of what I'm learning, I'm preparing shiurim. And number 3, you have all those 7 answers. The same thing as number 1. Most of the answers apply to me. You go through each one.
Is learning with a katan better than learning it with yourself?
It's a good question. What age?
Like under bar mitzvah.
Under bar mitzvah?
Anything under bar mitzvah.
It depends. When a person definitely has to designate time to learn at the level that he's at. An adult who spends time, serious time every single day learning and is more advanced in his learning will not get the same level of learning that he should be getting when he's learning with a 12-year-old, because naturally his mind should be smarter. However, it's important to learn with and teach other people, which is another topic in general, and he's going to get special heavenly assistance for doing so, siyata d'shmaya, but he must set aside time on his own to learn in order to grow.
Also about setting time. So what are the questions when you come up to Al-Mabi or they ask you, did you have a set time to learn Torah?
Yeah. So if you learn with the cut, then that technically counts. However, when it comes to what a person is expected of and what they're able to reach, the cutton's going to be holding him back. And like we saw in the stipler, you should be learning with someone at your level so you could grow accordingly.
I once heard that there was like a guy who bothers him to learn with Katan. He said like, can you learn with me this Bishlam soccer? So I was like, I could have been holding in the Yerushalmi soccer. Well, why do I have to learn with him? So he said, if no one learns with their children, there'll be no Yidden.
Right. Correct.
Probably, I think it was maybe the Shulchan or someone said, or the fucking Sky maybe, that it's like you should be learning with a good friend to be a cover.
Yeah, that was a stipler.
Stipler.
Yeah.
So, but if you're learning with a good friend, there's a big chance you're going to be battling with them.
No, he specifically said not a battler, not a guy who's just going to be schmoozing all the time. A guy who's actually learning. A good friend, like we learned 2 sessions ago, a good friend is someone who's going to help you with Torah and mitzvahs, and he's going to tell you when you're doing something wrong. That is a good friend.
Is it better to learn? Is it better to learn yourself, or better to learn, or better not to learn at all?
Definitely yourself. Definitely.
So should there's it says that no rub to paskin himself. So let's say he's some of the biggest gadol there. There's no one bigger than him. Everyone is much lower than him. Should he be clarifying with someone that's way?
Everyone has to have a Rebbe, even if the Rebbe knows less than them. Number 1. Number 2 is that's talking about you can't just do it yourself. Sometimes if you don't know the answer, you have to bounce the idea off of someone else to get clarity. Someone great.
What about learning with an AI chavur? So nowadays they have such a thing. Oh, and that's what the Gemara says by Omar Rava.
Yeah. Okay, next question.
If there's only one person a Rav is able to ask, and that's his Talmud, it should be clarifying with his Talmud?
It depends what. For example, if you have a Rebbe who's giving a shir on a Gemara or something,
it's like a kasha,
or it's in a kollel, he's asking a kasha, throw out the kasha. You never know when you're going to get clarity. I've thrown out kashas before, people I never thought I'd get answers. Not only did I get answers, I incorporated in my notes, and one day those notes are going to get published in the name of the person who gave that answer. And it's an interesting answer. And sometimes they've answered very difficult questions before. When you're in a sugya, everyone's holding there. So you never know. Said in the Gemara, you learn the most from your students.
It says that it's like honoring Hashem. Is our Chabura the same thing as except honoring Hashem like Chabura?
It's what?
It said that it's our Chabura honoring Hashem.
Yeah, 100%.
Even a chabur with 2 people?
Yeah, that's a chabura. We have a zimun.
So if people don't come to Chabura, if there's supposed to be more people coming to Chabura,
yeah,
the people in the Chabura be going over to.
That's right. That's what the Chafetz Chaim is saying. That's one of the advantages of learning a Chabura. You're going to say, wait a second, you're part of the Chabura. Why weren't you here that time? We noticed that your presence wasn't here, and now we have less clarity on what we learned about because you weren't here. Supposed to get him here.
I once saw like in a sefer, I think it was Rav Zilberstein sefer, that there was a guy who wanted to make a big chabura and like a daf yomi church, so he offered up on a stipend whoever who came, and then there was a guy who came and asked him, if you're here every single day, I haven't missed a day, and why don't you ask any questions? So he answered, How should I ask questions? The shears in Yiddish. I don't know a word of Yiddish. So is that counted as learning?
No, you don't understand the material that is being learned because in a different language, it definitely does not count as learning. But you still get reward for coming.
Get the money.
The question, well, it depends what the stipulation was. If the idea is that he just had to be there, he gained something by being there. He gained something, even if he doesn't understand it. He gained something. But if he said in that you have to understand or listen to what's going on and it's in different language, then I don't see why you should get paid. It depends how it was stipulated.
Answering my other question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the Gemara in Avos says that a Rebbe, someone learns good by himself, but he learns better with a friend, and he learns even better with a from his Rebbe, and he learns the best, like the top from the. He learns the best, like more his Talmidim answer the most of his questions.
It's opposite. It says first the Gemara says that you learn a lot from your rabbis, then it says you learn more from your friends, and then it says from your students you learn the most.
Try the best share and watch the other videos.
Quoting me.
If you want any more, go to RabbiBlond.com. And this is why technology is made.
Was he quoting again?
Very good.
He's quoting me.
Question
I'm
is,
quoting the
how many people do you think make it to the end?
Make it to the
Very
end.
few.
Us two for sure.
That's good, and it was worth it.
Exactly.
It was worth it if it was just for me also.
You know, like also like.
Rabbi, I watched the best part of it. I watched the end of it. All the kashas, that's when I watch it.
Oh, you just watch the end?
What do you say about someone who doesn't watch every video, but no, he does watch the entire video, but he learns one halacha. One halacha that I didn't know before.
Worth it.
Or like
Worth
I will say if you didn't know this halacha,
You already said the last thing.
it's worth it.
That's right. That's right. It was a good review though. It's worth it for the review.
That's all.
Exactly.
If someone doesn't watch the other videos, they need to know.
Rebbe, you say every time subscribe and watch every single video. This is why
I
technology was
usually actually
created.
don't say it. I put it in.
The description repeats it.
Yeah.
Belt of Rabbi Science.
All right.
Subscribe and watch every video.